And then COVID happened.
COVID. Get ready for that.
Well, welcome to our first podcast here. I've got Maya Khare, my daughter here. I'm really excited to have her on this podcast. We've been talking about doing this for a long time. And my name is Rahul Khare. I'm a physician and owner of Innovative Care, particularly Innovative Express Care and Innovative Vitality, but a whole umbrella of medical groups, including Mind Care, which is a ketamine center and a med spa, and 5 primary care centers in Chicago, the North Side. Welcome, Maya, on the show. Thank you for really pushing to having this actually happen. I'm very excited.
Well, I'm Maya. I am said daughter of Dr. Rahul Khare here. And I'm happy to give the audience a big bit about your founder CEO story.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
I love this story, and one of the cool things about it is just 11 years in the making.
11 years, but a lifetime building up to it.
Well, that's the thing. People are like, "Well, did you wish you could open up your first urgent care when you were 24 years old?" When I was first a doctor, and I was like, "I would have failed." Right.
Yeah.
So I needed all my experiences.
Right. So, Dr. Khare, you started off as an ER doctor.
I mean, truthfully, my father was a surgeon, and I always thought surgery was what I wanted to do. So after medical school, I went to a 6-year medical program at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and that was in Kansas City, Missouri. And I thought I wanted to be a surgeon all 6 years of med school, and I got into surgery residency, went to Cleveland for 2 years, and really didn't like it. I should have known back then, but
in surgery, you don't talk to patients.
You really don't.
What's the vibe there?
Yeah, you're basically diagnosing them or someone else diagnosing them, the ER, with something surgical. You assessing the patient and then saying, okay, we need to take that out. And the motto in surgery is to cut is to heal. And so most of the time spent with the patient is under anesthesia. Right. So you're not really talking to the patient because the patient's unconscious. And it's a very noble profession. Those guys work so hard. But in my second year, I knew it wasn't for me. And my wife, Amy, your mother, said, we need to get out of here. And she helped me apply to 4 different residencies in emergency medicine. One was at the University of Michigan, which I totally loved. And they accepted me. And I spent 3 years in doing emergency medicine. It was kind of like an arranged marriage. I didn't really know what emergency medicine was when I went into it. After a year, I fell in love with it. And I really loved it to the point where we always wanted to move to Chicago. And Northwestern University was a university that I loved since I was a child. Being from Kansas City, it's like the big city in the Midwest. So it was always our dream. And I got a job as an attending at Northwestern University. From there, did a research fellowship while I was an attending and got research funding from the NIH, studying how people got their health care and how to reduce waiting room times in the emergency department, which is still a problem.
While you were also treating patients in the ER.
Yeah, I was working in the ER, got my K award, my NIH funding, doing research. And the way they fund researchers is that the government pays your salary, clinical salary, not to work. I was still doing shifts. I did like 5-6 shifts. And that was only my last 5.
A week?
5-6 shifts a month.
Okay.
So, and that was only my last 5 years. So
so catch us up on the timeline. Yeah. You did 6 years of medical school and some surgery. And then you switched for...
Then 2 years of general surgery. We were working 110 hours a week. I have parking stubs to show. It was crazy. Like you're spending your life in there. They used to call us house officers because we used to live in the hospital. So yes, that was 2 years. Hated that for me. Then went into emergency medicine residency at University of Michigan for 3 years. 2 years general surgery, 3 years. So 5 years of residency, 3 years emergency medicine. And then an attending physician where I was doing a lot of shifts. And then my last 5 years, I did about 5-6 shifts a month, but did research on NIH-funded research.
So he's student, surgeon, ER, physician, and researcher.
Yeah. I wanted to be a chairman of an emergency department, and that's how you do it. You have to do grant funding research, you have to be a good clinician, and then you have to be a leader. So I was like doing that. And actually, I got a job offer at University of Missouri, Kansas City to be the chair of their,
Your dream.
yeah, it was right there.
Yeah.
And then I also got a job offer at Stanford University to be their head of patient safety in their hospital. That was when the stuff got real, because what I really wanted to do in my last year at Northwestern was to open up my own clinic and to really change the way healthcare was delivered using telemedicine, online booking of appointments, decreasing waiting room time. And Northwestern.
But what made you not want to continue your research and your shifts and all of that? What is this boiling pot that made you, in a way, explode and kind of bring you to consciousness?
That's a great question. So the truth is, I love researchers. Obviously, I was one, and I respect them a lot. And what they do is they study what is happening and tell you what works and what doesn't work, and there's 2 interventions, and you see which one's better. That's wonderful. What I really wanted to do was do it. I wanted to actually do the work. And I knew that if patients came back and if patients were happy and that we had good outcomes, then the research will come, right? So I think at the end of the day, I was done researching and I wanted to do it. And when I was in the ER, what I was realizing was there were so many sick patients that we would treat for heart attacks, we would treat for strokes, we would treat for bleeds. And what I realized, they come in their 60s and 70s, but if we could actually prevent 90 to 100% of these, almost all of them, if we had gotten them better education on diets, we would have given them medications to prevent these diseases instead of treat them, if we would have kind of coached them. And that's what I realized I wanted to develop.
It's like you were going into the hospital every single day, seeing what you could have done.
Right. And it was too late, right? These people already had heart attacks. We are the best in this country of diagnosing diseases and treating those diseases, which is awesome. And that was a way to live longer, right? But even better way is to prevent those diseases from even occurring, right? And we don't have a good process of that in our country right now, for a variety of reasons. We can get into those. But, mostly because we don't get reimbursed for preventing diseases. We only get reimbursed for diagnosing and treating diseases.
What does reimbursed mean?
We get paid. And if you realize that I can actually prevent you from getting diabetes and high blood pressure, which will prevent the heart attack and stroke, doctors get paid to treat those. They don't get paid to prevent them, right? So this is how our whole system is built. And so what I really want to do is to make a place that prevents those diseases from happening. But you have to start young at 30, 40s, and 50s to prevent diseases in your 60s, 70s, and 80s.
So you've got an offer from Stanford. You've got your dream job in Missouri, Kansas. And you've got an option to create your own opportunity for this thing that was basically like in your heart of hearts, killing you to show up every single day and not do.
Yeah. No, you got to imagine, I've got arguably the best emergency medicine job in Chicago. Northwestern is highly touted. There are very few emergency physicians. I've got a research grant. I've got everything. I've got a good salary. I've got 3 kids, you included, all in private school because that's what I believe in. And the one option is, instead of Stanford or going to chair at Kansas City, is to open up my own urgent care and basically take out a loan for $1 million and build my own urgent care. And people thought I was crazy. And
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's talked about enough. People thought you were crazy.
They were crazy.
And what were you talking about? You were telling your friends like you were rejecting Stanford, rejecting the dream job.
Yeah.
What was going on in your social life at that point?
People just thought I was nuts. Like the only exception to that is my parents were like, yeah, you want to go out on your own? They were both doctors in the system of hospitals. And they were like, do it. And I was like, thank you.
And by the way, his parents are from India, both of them. One is a surgeon, one does anesthesia. They're your traditional, or were your traditional Indian parents pushing. Tell me what changed in their view. Why did they believe in you?
Yeah, I think they always knew that in order to really set your own schedule and help as many people as possible, you really had to go on your own, and you couldn't work for somebody. And that meant sacrificing. So my first year, I had to find $100,000 in savings that took out for my 401k. We took you guys out of private schools because we couldn't afford it. We stayed in a 1,800 square foot townhome for 17 years. By the way, 5 of us. So it was tight, you know it. But it was like for this dream of creating a center that I could do what I thought was right in medicine. So we started the urgent care, and that's how we started. And let me tell you, it wasn't all great. Month 8, I had to go to my mom and dad to ask for money because I couldn't make payroll, meaning I couldn't pay my employees. And I borrowed $4,000 from them. And the next month, or $5,000 from them. The next month I borrowed $4,000. And I know that time my mom kind of looked at me and was like, is this going to be normal? Imagine I'm 40 years old asking my mom and dad for money. That is not as a doctor who took this risk. And that's when I knew I had to innovate and change some of the things. And I did. From that moment on, like things got real and I was like, I cannot fail. And we turned things around.
And in your social life, did you happen to lose any friends, lose any friendships?
They were very supportive. They would take their kids to my urgent care. They
were like, doctor, you're crazy, but I guess I'll support you.
And the good news is they got really good care. So it wasn't hard. So there's a school in Chicago in the city called Oscar Mayer, named after the great sausage king of Chicago. And that school was about a half a mile away from the clinic, and they supported me. They sent all the kids there, and slowly but surely we started to gain more and more patients. But the real thing that changed me is like around that time, cannabis became legal medically. And because of my history and understanding cannabis and not afraid of it whatsoever, I was one of the only doctors that actually certified patients to allow them to get cannabis. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would have a cannabis clinic set up. And usually in my urgent care, I would get 15 patients a day during those times. On Tuesdays, I had 80 patients. And on Thursdays, sometimes up to 100 patients. And you can see the volume started to come, the money, I started to have enough money to pay my debts back.
It's all because of that marijuana.
It's a wonderful thing for these patients with chronic health conditions such as PTSD. And we still have that clinic today.
And while your parents were giving you these loans, what were they thinking about you giving cannabis cards to people?
They were very interested. They were like, well, first of all, they were like, is this legal? Which is a great
Fair question.
And then they were like, well, and then I told them it helps them. And them being actual physicians, they're like, oh yeah, these patients need help. So it's really nice to have physician parents, right? And honestly, those days of the cannabis certification days, we saw our sickest patients, people in wheelchairs, people with MS, people on oxygen. Like we were really, these were sick patients. These were not your 20-year-olds coming in for a medical card. They didn't get it. You had to document certain spinal cord diseases and things like that. So I feel like we helped a lot of people, and I got more gifts from medical cannabis from patients than ever because it helped them so much.
You had previously said that you left the ER because you knew that you could prevent everything that these patients were coming into. Not everything, but So in the first few years of your practice, did you integrate this? Did you fulfill that?
So what I integrated was keeping them out of the emergency room. So that was my first goal. It's like, let's just keep these guys out of the ER, because I was seeing so many people in the ER where I was like, why didn't you get the IV fluids at your doctor's office? And they're like, my doctor's office doesn't do that. Why didn't you do it at your urgent care? My urgent care doesn't do that. Well, let's make a place where you can get IV fluids. We can give you IV antibiotics. We can do these things that ERs certainly can, but it's not a great use of their resources. So that's the first thing we fulfilled, is like keep people out of the emergency room, right? And then we touched into medical cannabis because no other physicians felt it was safe to do back then. we did that for a couple of years, and we're getting a good business
Yeah,
going
you're
on.
getting some energy, some rapport from the
Right.
community.
The other thing that I saw was mental health was pretty significant. I was filling up all these therapists. And because of that, I said, well, why don't we just bring in some therapists? So I started innovative therapy.
Mm.
So I have mental health, behavioral health specialists, counselors, psychologists, and therapists who actually see patients. We have 10 of those right now. And I started that. And then ketamine, which is a great drug for depression when nothing else works. So we opened up a ketamine clinic. So now we're starting to do things because other people haven't done them yet. And these are on the edge of medicine, right?
And this is from mostly what the market was showing that they needed, like
Right. I
help
was
with the mental
trying to
health.
find these people, and I filled up all these therapists, and I was like, I need to create my own. And then there was only one ketamine treatment center, and honestly, they were really expensive. They were like $600 per infusion, and my patients couldn't afford that. So I was like, I don't think it has to cost that much. Ours is now $250 an infusion. They were the cheapest in Chicago. So we started things so that most of my patients could use them.
Let's pause. So we're talking about mental health. We're talking about health too, medical health, physical health. Fill me in on your medical and mental health in these past 3 years of leaving ER and then building your first primary and then doing the cannabis and then ketamine. Okay, this is 3 years. You had to take your kids out of private school. You had to ask for money at the age of 40 from your parents. That's like very hard on your masculinity. Like catch me up. Like, how's your relationships? How is your health? Like,
Yeah.
this is a lot. And by the way, he is the only founder. There's no other founders in this, right?
No.
So this is a solo journey with support, but still,
Yep.
solo journey.
Yeah. It wasn't good, truthfully. My weight was creeping up. I was pretty stressed out because during this time I was also doing some ER shifts the first 3 years, 4 years. So I was also working in like ER when I wasn't working in the clinic
To make money.
to make money for the family, right? Because I couldn't, like the first year I didn't take any salary. We're all on loans. My second year, the salary was very low. We're talking 50, 60,000 a year, which is not a great way to support an entire family. I was shopping at Aldi's, which I still love, by the way. My weight was kind of going up. My mental health wasn't good. But like a lot of us, you got to do what you got to do to survive. But there was a dream, right? And I always thought it was going to work out. I just didn't know how.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So then COVID happened.
So
let me tell you a little bit about a little background of my research at Michigan.
Context time.
Yeah. I did as much research with the professors, whatever they were doing. I was like, let me help you. And one of these things in the 90s, there was actually a SARS virus in Korea, North and South Korea, and it showed us this coronavirus, the same coronavirus of COVID, that it was spreading to Chicago and to New York City, and it was scary. And I did a paper on it with a professor.
What's a SARS?
SARS is the coronavirus that is a family of COVID-19. So we already knew this was a hotbed of trouble. And the other thing I researched when I was at actually Northwestern and got a grant for is queuing theory. And queuing theory is the study of lines and how to decrease wait times. It could be a grocery store waiting times, that's a queue. Could be a bus stop waiting times. Could be our McDonald's waiting times. And I actually went to Toronto in Canada because they have a lot of lines because of social medicine to study this. They didn't really have this study. And I learned how to decrease waiting room times in the emergency room. And that was one of the biggest papers I had. It was in the Annals of Emergency Medicine. I was the first author on how to decrease these waiting room times. And we figured out how to do it. It was actually awesome. And one of the reasons I left is because Northwestern basically said, like, we love this research. I understand how to do it. We just don't want to commit the money to doing that. And I was like,
So this was 5 years of you doing your research on cues, writing papers,
Yep.
presenting, traveling
met with the
internationally.
CEO. He was so nice to me, and I'm so thankful he told me that. He was like, listen, I have to increase our cancer centers, our orthopedic centers. And he's like, what you want to do will cost money, and it's not what my outcomes that I'm graded on will help us with. So I was like, that's all I needed to know. I need to get out of here. I need to stop, because if your lifelong dream is to decrease emergency room crowding and it doesn't actually fit on the agenda of the CEO of the
If
hospital,
they don't have space for you,
then you're just studying something that's in theory, right?
make your own space.
But it taught me a lot, because when COVID came, well, first of all, I understood. I got my master's degree. So one of the grants paid for my master's degree, and it helped. It was in epidemiology. I was like, I don't know why I'm studying this, because like bird flu, like SARS, like it didn't make any sense.
So you were
to me.
doing in Michigan a master's
It was actually at Northwestern.
at Northwestern, studying like
How diseases transfer and how it spreads. And we learned about malaria and all these things that I was like, I don't know why I'm learning this.
so it's the mix.
Yep. So when in 2019, there started to be reports coming out of the SARS virus. And I was like, SARS? I know something about SARS. I've studied that. I have a paper on it. Okay. So I was like, oh. And then I started reading the very limited stuff that was coming out, and it was epidemiologic. So it's all in the epidemiology literature.
Did you know what? I
So
know
I
that.
was like, I know about that. And I saw the transfers, and I remember thinking, oh my God, this is going to be huge. And so actually, David Kaufman, who's a journalist here in Chicago, interviewed me on WGN radio. And we were talking about medical cannabis, actually. He got me on there. We had a little bit of time. He was like, this COVID-19 today, they're talking about it. Do you have any thoughts on it? I'm like, oh yeah, I have thoughts on it. And I think what I told him shocked him. I go, this is going to have economic consequences. The schools are going to be out. You got to get ready. And there was such a pause. He was almost like, oh, we got a crazy guy.
Yeah, like a
on the
slap
radio.
in the face.
Yeah. And he was like, well then, Dr. Khare's doom and gloom. And that was it. And then I told him, like, listen, like, I'm even thinking about moving out of my house and going into an Airbnb and then setting up a tent outside to test people, because it's going to be a big problem. And he was like, well, I wish you the best. And that was it. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I moved out of our house. I got an Airbnb, and I bought an orange tent. We put it in the parking lot, and we started testing. I had made handshake deals with the lab, saying like, listen, I know Northwestern, Rush, University of Chicago are going to be your number one people to get the tests, the PCRs for COVID. But
PCRs are like the swabs you put up.
Yep.
Okay.
the nose and the mouth. And I go, I need you to guarantee me some. I've been a good customer for you. And they made me a handshake deal. And sure enough, when the test came out, they weren't giving me any. And I'm like, do you remember our handshake deal? And they were like, yes. And they gave me 10 a day. And it was the only private clinic to be able to test. And we just started testing. And because it was so scary, I didn't ask my providers, my receptionist, anyone. I registered the patients. I swabbed them. I sent them back to their cars. Like, that was
Back
it.
to square one.
At some point, 2 weeks later, no patients were going in the urgent care. They were all lining up for testing. And finally, one of my providers came out and was like, I'll help you. I mean, you're seeing all the patients. Like, this is ridiculous.
A tad bit of jealousy.
Yeah,
I want to
so
work.
she put on her, hazmat suit, and we started seeing it. And then,
So catch us up. We're in March.
yeah, March. Remember, it was around St. Patty's Day. It was our last celebration out, and I knew it was like we're not. And then they closed down everything, and that's when everyone stopped working, and it slowly. Especially in Chicago. Florida, it was still playing pickleball and having fun. But we shut down pretty early, and people started getting sick. And then we had the only antibody to test if you had it before, which gives you immunity. And we opened that up, and we had 2 months booked out, seeing like 100 patients a day of seeing if they had the antibody or not. And then we were testing. And in my small little tent I was seeing 200 patients a day, and my landlord came to me and was like, it's in your lease. You cannot see patients outside. I'm like, it's COVID, man. Like, can you help me? And she was like, no, or we're kicking you out, which was good because then as I was at our townhome on Diversity and Seminary, right across the street was, this
The Mini
Cooper dealership that had moved out of there 10 months earlier. And I called Joe Perillo, who is the owner of that. Joe is he's a car guy in Chicago. He still has, his son now runs everything. And Joe was like, he's like, I don't want to give it to you. I can't give it to you. And I was like, listen, I'm going to pay you for this. And he was like, and this was a time where no one was paying for anything in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe was like, how much are you going to pay me? And I was like, $15,000 a month. He's like, done. And he gave me that. He's like, but 3 months only. And then we'll renew because I might sell it. We had that thing for 4 years. So we took that little Mini Cooper dealership and turned it into seeing 1,500 patients a day. And the queuing theory stuff.
Let's talk about it.
That's like to see that many patients, you cannot just, people can't call and pick up the phone and make an appointment. Like that's way too many. So what they had to do, like I had to make it so there's online booking. That booking had to register yourself with pictures of your insurance card and your license. You want symptoms and book that day, right? So we were like, we opened up all the appointments at 8 a.m. We opened up 700 appointments at 8 p.m. the day before, and then about 1,000 appointments at 8 a.m. And they all booked up.
What you were doing was having them do work that could have been done in the office, but online.
Exactly. We had to transfer everything because you can't be in a waiting room, and we had to do it in their cars. And so everything we did it online. So online booking, online registration.
And who was doing all this tech? Did you have a tech person? Were you the tech person?
I was the tech person.
You were Mr. Tech.
I was learning on the way there. I would get really smart people around me to be like, this is what I want. Can you make it happen? And then they would do it. I'm like, no, we need it quicker. And we need all these things.
Lots of troubleshooting.
Yeah, a lot. And not only that one center got full. So we opened actually 2 more centers like that. And then we opened up COVID of Chicago, which was a PCR only testing center for those that needed to fly internationally and needed their test within a day. And we had the only technology to do that.
What made you the only?
I found it, and then I made a deal with the company. And for me, it was for people that had family members who had funerals, and they had to get to, different European countries, and different countries had different rules. So we had to study all the rules and get them the exact piece of paper and the PCR test that was accepted in that country. So I was like, we can do that. Like we did all that work so they can get out of town and see their loved one or go to their funeral.
So you are on fire. What about Northwestern? What about Rush? What about your competitors? What about these labs? I mean, you did that handshake with a lab previously, 10 a day. Catch us up. What's happening?
Well, the cool part of having your own thing, and this is what I always knew would happen, was that you were able to shift so quickly. So
you didn't have to go through the different...
There was no committees, right? When I was at Northwestern, I would bring it up to chair would say yes, then we'd bring it up to committee, they met a month from now, and then they went over. Like in one day, we'd be like, done, we're changing everything. The CDC different recommendation. The other thing was everyone thought COVID would be over in a month, 2 months, 3 months, right? And so they didn't want to invest in it. And so many of the people that needed testing to go into surgery and to do all those things came to Innovative to get those things, right?
So your competitors were coming to you.
Yeah. And they were happy to, because they couldn't do surgery without a negative test.
Yeah.
So they were just like, go to Innovative. And not only that, like, okay, we had the test. What if you were positive? You have 2 options. You have the monoclonals. And by the way, I set up a monoclonal clinic, 15 lazy boys, nurses, put in IVs, given the medication that's life-saving. Or if you didn't qualify for that, you had Paxlovid, which we did a telemedicine consult with all our positives, and they would get the medication for that. And then when the vaccines came out, we gave that. So we were like this COVID center.
And by the way, I just want to make sure this was all at a Mini Cooper dealer
Yeah.
place. It was just this huge parking lot and huge glass building where they're setting up like 15 laid back chairs and IVs, and there's tons of cars everywhere. We were living across the street at our little townhouse, and this was
It was happening.
it was happening.
The doors, the employees would come in at 7. The gates would open to the public at 8. We would close at 8. It was 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was intense. It was an intense time.
And so now you have paid back the parents. You've paid back the loans.
Yeah.
What's happening now? I mean, we are probably in 2023 where you've had the huge COVID boom. I think the worst of it was 2022. I mean, you tell me, statistically wise.
Yep.
And so things are starting to slow down. Regulation is happening.
Yeah, no one needs COVID testing anymore. So we shut down, 3 of them. We have the one center still there. We're still seeing 100, 150 patients a day. So like it's still, but now we went from 75 employees to around 400 employees during the peak of COVID. What I did was I took the capital that we made, and then I took most of that money and I was like, what do I really want to do? I want to increase primary care because that's what I did. So I opened up 3 other primary care locations. I opened up one more ketamine location. And at that point, I wasn't the healthiest, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Okay. So what was happening there?
Well, at that point, with all the stress and all the excuses I can give you, I had ballooned up to 205 pounds, so like 30 pounds. And I was playing a lot of pickleball with your brother Dylan, and I was getting injured all the time, like bursitis, tendonitis, my knee, my Achilles, and like every week I felt like I was going into my physical therapist, God bless her. And one day I go, why am I getting injured so much? Is there something I can do? And she kind of looked at me and she said, you could lose some weight. And I was like, wow.
Giving it to you straight.
That's it. And she was right. And at this time, one of the physician I trained in the cannabis clinic, shout out Dr. Catherine Johnson, she went on this like year-long sabbatical of learning functional medicine and this thing called longevity medicine. And she goes, I can take you on as a patient. You lose all that weight. And I was like, I don't know what you're going to do. I've been overweight my whole life, fluctuating like a yo-yo up and down with crash diets and trying everything, and really ashamed because I'm a doctor, right? And I'm overweight.
It's like kind of a controversy.
Yeah, well, it's
like you're a
it's
doctor.
like, you're going to tell me how to live healthy and you're 30, 40 pounds, overweight. And I was like, I'll do anything. I'll pay you. Let's do it. And she was like, no, you don't have to pay me. I was like, no, I want to. Let's do it for real. She taught me what, longevity medicine was. And I not only lost 40 pounds, then I gained 10 pounds of muscle. All of a sudden, I viewed myself as an athlete. I was doing like 8 pull-ups at a time. I felt good going to the beach all of a sudden. It was like someone I'd never been before. And I was working out 3 days a week.
And you're around, 45 years old by now?
Exactly. 45, 46 years old. And not only that, my cholesterol levels, LELs went down. I had more energy. I mean, it was life-changing.
But you talk about prevention constantly, like throughout your story.
Yeah.
So like for you as a person, were you not integrating preventative lifestyles before, Catherine?
I was doing what I thought we needed to do. So for me, back in the day, I thought a healthy meal was like some romaine lettuce, some olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and 5 pieces of tofu. So I'd do that for like 3 or 4 days, and then of course be like voraciously hungry and eat like bad stuff.
Yeah.
And she taught me what a good meal was and what my issues were. I was huge into carbs that I shouldn't have been eating.
Yeah. Were you
So I put on a blood sugar monitor And then I was like, oh my God, look at how many carbs I'm eating. The taco that I had, by the way, I didn't know Taco Tuesdays, the tacos that we gave our employees, was the pork was drenched in pineapple juice and 2 tortillas, and got my blood sugar to 200 when I ate it. And I was like,
Before we dive into longevity, I mean, you were a doctor for like 15 years or something,
yeah,
or you started your personal journey with your health. What were some of the things that they told you, whether it was media or learning from books? Just what were some of the things they told you was healthy
right.
that put you in the state that you were before?
Yeah, before I learned everything. Well, first of all, what I thought was that you had to exercise all the time to be at a weight that you wanted to, and that you had to eat very little. Some of that's true, but the truth is, like learning later on, it's like what you eat: high protein, low carbs, and exercise, but do something you enjoy doing, right? Like make it a habit. Like the things that I teach you, and you're kind of, it's in your DNA now. I didn't understand any of that. How sleep is so important. As an ER doctor that did shift work, like I would get 5 hours and just like go for it, and then catch up a little bit on the weekends. But I was always sleep deprived. And then I would go really hard and play tennis or pickleball, and then injure myself, and just didn't.
It was a lot of like absolutes, like
Yeah,
eat very little, exercise a lot,
yeah.
or eat a lot now, a lot of these carbs.
Alcohol intake, like
Mhm.
what's wrong with 2-3 glasses at dinner? So like a lot of stuff I just didn't know. I really didn't know.
Yeah. How were you supposed to know? Like
Well, being a doctor, you think with nutrition and all of that stuff, but it's not taught. Truthfully, it's not taught. I learned later on from another doctor, right? And it was so important to me. It changed my life. And really, I created this small clinic to help my community, my friends, family, to have them be on my journey with me. And what was interesting is, like, as I was losing all this weight, they were looking at me and they're like, "What are you doing? I want to do it." And I was like, "Oh, I'll teach you, and I'll teach you when you're ready. You're ready." And I wouldn't do it because I was still on my own journey. And then finally, everyone's like, "No, you need to do it." And then I was like, "Well, if I'm going to do it, let me do it right with a clinic." And here's the
I
thing.
love how you were like your own promotion, by the way. That was so cool.
And even today, Innovative Vitality, the longevity clinic, we get 75% of our patients from people who see the patient that underwent it and are like, "I want to do that." It's not through Google, it's not through chat, it's not through
You have
Instagram.
walking examples all over
Everyone's
the
a walking
city.
billboard, right? So it's really important that people want to make the change. And then the problem with primary care and the reimbursement system is that you only get 15, 20-minute appointments. You see a doctor 2 to 3 times a year. Like, I couldn't fit that into innovative primary care. So I have to actually create another clinic where the reimbursement is changed a little bit. And so we do take insurance, but we have to get a subscription fee of $250 a month to be able to email, text, and coach. That is things that aren't reimbursable from longer appointments from traditional primary care. We incorporate that into Innovative Vitality so that we can do the coaching. And it's really the coaching that helps everything. Yes, it's the blood work that we do quarterly, and we check these things that our traditional primary cares don't check, like certain LDL levels, apolipoprotein, genetic markers, things like that. But in truth, we then individualize the plan so that, and we coach people on how to eat, blood sugar monitoring, increase their protein, decrease their carbs, and then put them on medications that help support that. And the combination of all that, it's not just one thing. Because people are like, "Well, what do you do? Is it just the GLP? Is it just the Ozempic?"
But it's a complex thing. The thing that you're doing is very complex. Humans are complex. Our bodies are complex.
Every single person has their own issue. One of my patients stress eats while their kid's playing baseball, And then let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about what you can do instead. Let's talk about having a protein shake in your purse and having a little protein meal before you go out there, and maybe having some popcorn, right? If you want that oral fixation, right?
Mhm.
Like, and you do that, and all of a sudden that's fixed, right? And so you have to personalize it to the person.
So how did you get it personalized? What's your story? What was your personalization that made you drop 30, 40 pounds?
My personalization, I mean, it's always simple, right? It was the beers that I had that were like empty. It's not that I was drinking 6 beers a night. I was drinking 2 to 3 every day with a meal. Also, what I was eating, instead of, I was doing heavy carb, low protein, and I flipped that. So when you eat enough protein, you feel full, right? If you eat 2 chicken breasts, like you can't eat a third,
Yeah.
right? With pizza, you eat 2 pizza slices, you can eat a third one, no problem. Why is that? That's kind of strange. Well, carbs versus protein are very different. So I switched that. Actually wasn't like a sacrifice to me. I actually enjoy high protein, which is chicken, steak, pork, things like that. And now I'm barely on any GLPs because I need more protein because I want to gain more muscle. So there's ways to even get off of it, which people are like, it's impossible. Look at the literature. And it's like, nothing's impossible. But you need a coach and a doctor to help you through it. So,
And
yeah.
that's where people struggle is the I'm gonna do this by myself. Maybe in
Yeah.
shame.
Or they see their doctor, but the doctor only has 15 minutes every 6 months. Like, that's not a coach. That's a person who's prescribing things, and then it's a do it on your own. Our program makes it so you're talking to our doctors or providers weekly for 2 months, and then every other week. After that, if you're on maintenance and you're doing well and you lost 40 pounds, you don't have to see us every week or every 2 weeks. But until then, until we get you on the right track, behavioral change is very hard. It's the hardest thing for humans to do.
Especially like middle age.
Yes.
Maybe like 5-year-olds, they develop language easier.
5-year-olds till you're 15, 18, you've changed all the time.
All the time.
But as an adult, we stay away from it because it's unsettling. But with food, diet, and culture, our culture says let's meet up at the bar to have community, right? And so I talk to a lot of my patients like, hey, go to the bar. That you should go to the bar, but get a soda water and lime. Get a Diet Coke. Like, you don't have to be peer pressured into a glass of champagne.
So what were some cultural differences in your social life or culture that you had to change in order to sustain a healthier lifestyle?
Drinking first, like we would, and it's interesting. My friend group drinks less today than ever before. There's not a lot of drinkers anymore. So it's like everyone has changed because drinking upsets your sleep cycle. It makes you eat worse. You feel more tired with it. And so as we age and our hormones shift, especially women, it's not a good drug or medication, right? It actually does decrease anxiety a little bit in the short term, but increases it in the long term, right? We all know that. You wake up in the morning anxious after a big night of drinking. So drinking was a big thing. We don't go to bars as much anymore. We'll meet up outside. We'll take walks together. And that's more enjoyable, it's more one-on-one. And it's in nature, which is cool.
I definitely feel like there was some lifestyle changes growing up when he started this journey. Changes wasn't abrupt.
Right.
Like, we're changing everything now, the second.
Right. Even vacations we go on now. Like, we're looking at going whitewater rafting. We're looking at outdoor adventures.
Being active.
And being active, where it would not be like that. I would say 5 years ago, we would be like laying out by the beach and, drinking and doing those kind of things. So it's a good thing to be more active.
Yeah. What's something that, looking back, you would have told yourself? Very generic question, but this one hits all the time.
I think the thing I would say, and this was said to me. I remember my first conference I went to in New Orleans. I was like 29 years old, and someone convinced me to go see a psychic. Because in New Orleans, like, come on, they're the best there. They have the voodoo, they have the culture. And she was reading my cards, tarot cards. And she was like, you're going to get to where you want to go. but it's going to take longer than you want, and it's not going to be what you want right now. And I was like, what the heck is that? I remember writing it down and just staring at that. And so I would tell myself, is like, hey, you'll get to where you want to be. You'll get to be, in charge of a large group of people, helping people the way you want to do it. But it might not be what you think it is right now. So I wanted to be a chairman of an emergency department. Right now I'm the CEO of a large, a small business that's, growing, expanding, healthier. I can see that what I wanted then has changed. It's morphed into this. And even right now, what I thought you were going to ask me was like, what's next, right? Even now at 51 years old, like I don't have any reason to retire. I don't want to sell my company. There's more to do, right? The Vitality Clinic is what I really love and we're expanding on, but there's even more than that. Like you just don't know the things that what you've learned and how they're going to help you. And it's really important just to keep learning and be open about it and really follow your passions, because, you will be able to use them if you are able to like jump off the cliff, right? And create the plan.
Burn the boats.
And you go all in. Going all in is really important. And even if the sacrifice seems crazy, like taking all 3 of your kids out of near North Montessori private school, putting them on CPS, doing, staying in a very small house,
doing some sketchy things along the way,
doing some things people look at you and be like, are you sure that's legal? And I'd be like, it is. And I want to help people. And
putting down your armor, asking your parents for loans.
Yeah. Going for it. Right. It's really important. And so what I would have told myself is like, hey, keep going and know that the timeline you want is always quicker than it really is going to be, right? That's really important to know.
As long as you keep going.
You have to keep going. And also, like, if it's aligned in your heart, right, you will always enjoy doing that, right? If you're doing it for other people or doing it for the money, you'll burn out and it won't work. But if you're doing it, for me, it was to help more people, get them good healthcare.
Your fulfillment.
For me, it was that. And for that reason, I was able to pivot and make the changes. And it continues on. It really does. I think mental health is where I want to continue going. The world of psychedelics is going to blow people's minds. Like the advent of psilocybin, that's going to be FDA approved in the next year or two. Ibogaine. We're talking these medications that have never been seen before to help mental health, which is at an all-time high. Can we help people coach with medication, not just throw medications, but all of it?
So tune in to what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Psychedelics.
I'm excited.
Well, thank you, Dr. Khare.
Oh, thank you, Maya. You're a really good podcast host. I'm impressed.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I love it. I love it. That's a good idiom.
Yeah.